Hey guys, it is Chatney. Hey, I am coming to you guys again. I know we did a training this past week and that was awesome that we got lots of stories and you got to hear from me about all of the things that had to come together in order for us to pull off the cruise in 1 month. And you got to hear stories about the consultants in my unit and how hard they all worked and different obstacles and different things that kept us going. And so we had lots of questions that came in this week, either on here in the comment section or just questions individually to me. And so I wanted to give you guys who wanted more of a step-by-step plan from a consultant who maybe is like starting and you are brand new, or maybe you've been in Mary Kay forever, but you don't have a team. And a lot of the tracking charts that I created or that Ruth created with me are for directors, or they are for a consultant that has a team already. And so we wanted to give you guys a little bit of a different tracking chart, and we wanted to just assume that you would be starting on ground level. And if you're a consultant starting at ground level, what does that look like? So if that is you and you want to plan, or you want to plan for your team members, then this is for you, okay? And so I did break it into 3 sections, and I think you're probably going to need a sheet of paper for each section. So if you want to get your notebook out and you want a sheet of paper for each section, then I'm going to split it. There's a lot in a couple of these sections. And so it is obviously on here and it's recorded. And so you guys can come back and listen to it again and again. But this is really what we did in our plan, broken down for every consultant, okay? So thing number 1, and we talked about it on the call the other day, but sheet number 1, page number 1, across the top of that page, I would put the word decision. And so the first thing is you have to make a decision. And your decision is that you are earning it. So decide you're earning it and decide who you're taking with you, okay? Decide to prepare decide to prepare for the trip as if you have already earned it. So it is not just, yes, I'm going to earn it. Yes, I'm going to go on this cruise. But so far that you've taken the steps of who am I taking with me, and I'm going to prepare as if it's already done, right? And so that means that you are going to make a decision on what day you're going to finish the trip. And that is, are you going to finish February 28th? Are you going to finish March 31st, April 30th, May 31st, or June 30th? Or maybe you want to set there's a whole lot of people right now trying to finish by February the 14th or February the 15th or by their 50th birthday. So you decide when your deadline is for you. And when I say you decide and you plan as if it's already finished, I mean, do you have a passport? Who are you taking with you? Do they have a passport? Have you asked off for work? Have they asked off for work? Have you already figured out child care arrangements? Because that is a big piece as well. So that is what make a decision and figure out all the details sounds like. And I think you have to figure that out now. And that way there is nothing holding you back because you have all your ducks in a row. And also, I want you to understand, and we talked about it the other night, but if you choose June 30th as your deadline because maybe you're new and you're scared to choose sooner, I don't think that your choice of when you're going to finish needs to be based on your current ability level. I think it needs to just be based on, I'm making a decision that I want to finish by April 30th because I want to take people with me. And the only way for me to be able to take some of my people with me is for me to finish soon enough that they still have time to qualify. So keep in mind that if you choose June 30th, 1, you will have less women that you get to help experience that cruise. And 2, if you plan on June 30th and you miss, you're not going on the cruise. So I would maybe suggest you pick something other than June 30th. So that would be that. The next thing you need to decide is what your strategy is. So we did have a strategy pretty much from the 2nd or 3rd day of the month on. And that kept evolving, but those are all the materials that Linda posted here that I gave to sales directors. This is my strategy. It doesn't mean that you can't have your own strategy. There will be tons and tons and tons, hundreds of winners that have a completely different strategy than the one that I had. That's just how my brain works, and I decided my strategy early, and then you're just taking the rest of the month to work that plan, right? We decided a plan, and then we took the rest of the month to work the plan. Decide where you are in each category as of tonight. Okay, so there are 3 categories, and you have to know, where am I on each of the 3 categories? If I am brand new today, then I have 0 of my 3,600 in. If I am brand new as of today, I have 0 qualified new recruits. If I am brand new as of today, I have 0 team members that have 0 team members. So that's easy. Okay, but some of you guys had a great January. And so even if you only did something towards the 3,600 category that was $600, then you have $600 towards your 3,600, so you have 3,000 left. Maybe you added 1 new team member, but maybe she's not qualified yet. That's okay. I think that decision almost has to be, how many team members do I have? And then the second part of that is getting them qualified. But how many team members do you have? Did you add anybody in the month of January? Because if you added people in the month of January, if you added 3 team members, when they get qualified in their first 4 months, then you have your 6. If you added 0 in the month of January, you are at 0, okay? And so you have to add 6 team members. And I would encourage you to just focus, break that goal into 2. How many team members do you have? How many team members do you need? And then we'll work with those team members to get qualified, because we do have a plan. We have a 24-24-24 plan. You'll have some people that decide they're running this as a business, and those people will decide to get some inventory on hand. You'll have some people that are personal use consultants, but they're going to order their 3 time-wise repair sets and 3 time-wise repair sets for their mom, and that's their 600, okay? So you will have people that one way or another can get qualified, but you just have to know today, how many team members did I get in January? If the answer is 0, then I am at 0 of my 6, okay? And then lastly, do I have any team members? And if you don't have any team members, that's okay. The answer is 0. You just have to know where you're at today, because you have to be able to know where you're starting to know what you have that's left. So it's okay if it's 0. Remember, if you remember our story on the 31st of January, we were at 0, 0, 0, okay? Now, we knew where a lot of things were going to come from, but as far as on paper, you know, I had the team members recruited, but nobody was qualified, okay? We had several team members that had some team members, but no one was finished. So it's okay. But how many, if you have any team whatsoever, do you have any team members that have never been a red jacket? Then you can put them on the tracking chart. So we gave you a tracking chart as a consultant that you could use that would help you a lot, okay? And last but not least, decide on a tracking chart and decide who your prospects are, okay? So if the tracking chart that we gave you is not what you want to use, it's okay. I don't care if you use a spiral notebook. It doesn't matter what you track. It just matters that you are taking that with you and that you carry it everywhere. I carried a page in my notebook with me everywhere. It was in my purse. It was in my briefcase. It went to every pickup for my kids and drop off of my kids. I carried that notebook with all of my prospects around all month long. So you have to decide, and when I say decide on your prospects, I do mean write every single one of their names down and their contact info. If they are not in your cell phone for you to push a button, there is nothing here that can stop you. Okay, so you have to decide, who are my top prospects? Who are all of my prospects? And don't go back through every list of every person ever. Like, make a fresh list of who your best prospects are. And then once you've weeded through that entire list, then you can keep adding like old, okay? But we're not going to, at this point, put 5,000 people on. You're not going to get out a list of every napkin that you have written a waitress's number on, and you're not going to get out a list of every fair booth lead that you have not called. This is not a time to do that. This is a time that you are making a fresh list that you're excited about. These are my best prospects. Because you don't have to hit 5,000 people that you have never called but should have in order to make this come together. Honestly, no one in my unit had to interview 50 people to get their 3. So you're not going to need a very large list. Less than you think you will, okay? And you can always go get more names when you run out of the fresh prospects, okay? So that is step number 1. That is page number 1, decision, okay? Page number 2 is provision. So I want you to write provision on the top of your paper, okay? What does provision mean? It means you are going to work your plan, okay? We decided on a bunch of stuff, and we now have a tracking chart and prospect, and now all that's left to do this month is work the plan. And you just have to start, okay? I was headed down the staircase to my training center, and it says, you know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is just start the process. So many times we're always like getting ready to get ready, okay? We're ready, now let's start, okay? So I would encourage you to print off the tracking chart, and we provided you a tracking chart. If you don't like that one, pick something else. Okay? You're going to take it everywhere because you have to use your time wisely. If you are just starting today, that's okay that you're just starting today, but today is February 10th, so we now have 18 days. Okay? That's less than 3 weeks that we have, and you can totally do it, but you have to use all your time wisely. And if you chose today that from today on you're going to use your time wisely, you will have more ability to finish this than the person that is just, you know, not doing anything with their time, and they're kind of not taking their tracking sheet places, and they're not doing what they're supposed to. So by all means, if you use your time wisely, that's all you need to do. But it does need to go in the car line, in the drive-through, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. You'd be shocked at what you can get done. And although people are people, and people are not numbers, working the numbers is what's going to take the emotion out of it for you. So you have to know what your numbers are, okay, in all 3 categories. Get comfortable with team building. Erase any old messages that are in your brain that you can't do this, or, oh my goodness, like, you know, any message that says, oh my gosh, I have never built a team. I've been in Mary Kay 30 years and don't have a team member. What makes you think that in 18 days I could add 3? Okay, that is just the enemy. And discouragement is not a tool of Jesus Christ, okay? So you have to get rid of that message that like, oh my gosh, why do you think I would be able to do this? Believe me, I know how those messages work. I have played them over and over in my head for the last couple years when it comes to whether I am able to build a red, whether I'm able to build a senior, whether I'm able to build another sales director. And so it is okay, but you've got to erase those messages and just say, Satan, get behind me, okay? Cancel, cancel, cancel. And so you haven't decided to build 3 team members in 18 days, which is the only reason you've never built 3 team members in 18 days. But if you make a decision today that you're going to do that, you can do that. It's like this past week, I was sitting with some of my, brand new red jackets, and we were talking about them getting a red jacket to Red Jacket Retreat. And one of their team members looked at me and was like, well, when does Red Jacket Retreat? And I'm like, 2 weeks. And she was like, you think I can be a red jacket in 2 weeks? And, you know, her mom is sitting there going, yeah, I mean, I finished my red jacket in 2 or 3 days. I'm sure we could finish a red jacket in 2 weeks. And I now believe that to be 100% true. But I don't know that you would have had me say that or even suggest that to a person 2 months ago. I know I wouldn't have. I would have thought that that wasn't possible. But I just watched it be possible for 7 people in my unit to do that. And so it is possible for you too. As of today, you are getting better and better at offering the opportunity. That needs to be the message in your head. So know this, you can do everything with the right attitude and it be the wrong thing to do and still have good results. Or you can do everything right with a poopy attitude and not get the results that you want. So it's not so much that it has to be perfect. You just have to continue to tell yourself that you're doing all the right things and to keep going. And so it's like the part of Facing the Giants. I know, don't you love it when I quote that movie? It's like the part of Facing the Giants when David is trying to kick the field goal, and the coach comes over and he's like, David, you're trying to kick it far left and far right. And he goes, I know, coach, I know. And he's like, no, 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 you don't. David, you know, my mama can kick it far left and far right. You know, the ball has got to go through the middle. And he said, it doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to look smooth. It can look like a dying duck, but the ball has got to go through the middle, right? So it doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to look smooth. It can look like the dying duck, but you have got to hold an interview to have an opportunity for anyone to say yes. You have got to hold a skincare class to have an opportunity for people to buy product. You have got to make a phone call to have an opportunity for someone to say yes. Okay? And so it doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to look smooth. It can look like a dying duck, but we have to have some activity in these categories to get any production to happen or to move our numbers up. Okay? The next thing in Provision is we have provided you with the recruiting layering chart. So it's in the file that's labeled consultants. And you do need a recruiting layering chart so that you can track the right things that you've given. The average Mary Kay consultant to be able to say yes, the average prospect needs 3 layers. 3, okay? Now, some people will take 10 and still not be a Mary Kay consultant, and they'll remain a customer. But I always tell people, when they say no, I always say, man, you can buy full price Mary Kay off me for as long as you want. No big deal. If everybody said yes to Mary Kay, I wouldn't have anybody to sell to. So I just make it okay for them to remain a customer. But the recruiting layering process will help you. How is that different than a prospect list? I mean, you can just have everybody on a prospect list, but I think you need to be tracking how many layers you've given those people. And I don't think you need to take the easy way out or think of all of the layers as even. I don't think that someone hosting a skincare class is the exact same layer as someone taking up an outside order or someone having an interview. Okay, so this is for this contest. This is how I would prioritize these things. 1, most important on the recruiting is a layering process. Does she use the product? If you have a prospect and she is like your best prospect and she does not use the product, that is step numero uno, okay? You have got to get her on the product because people recruit that are close to the product. And if she is not close to the product, that is going to be one of the things holding her back. So just get that over with. And it doesn't mean that you have to start way over here and do everything like the perfect Mary Kay appointment. We have 18 days if your deadline is February 28th. So it's not that you have to do everything right from the beginning, but what you do have to do is get her on some product. That might mean that you take her a TimeWise 3D sample. That might mean that you take your TimeWise 3D set out of your skincare bag and you say, hey, you take it to her at work. And if your coworker is your #1 prospect, you might say, hey, Kim, wash your face with this tonight and tomorrow morning. This is what it does. I think you're going to love it. Tell me what you think tomorrow when you bring it back. And if you love it, I will give you a coupon. You can have it for 99 bucks if you buy it in the next 24 hours. Okay? Something like that where she gets to experience being a customer. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and take a sale away from your family. You have 18 days. You have time to sell her full price product. You might even have time for her to do a great skincare class and introduce you to 5 of her friends that do not work with you guys. So there is plenty of great things that you can do with her, and you have plenty of time to do that. But her getting the product and experiencing the product, even if she's not buying it as a full retail customer, it is very important that she tries the product, because people who have tried the product and love the product are the people who then are going to make an easy transition to, oh my gosh, I love this stuff. Obviously, I would want to get this at 50% off. Obviously, I would want my mama and my sister to be able to get my discount. Obviously, I could sell this stuff to the people who are in my life because this stuff is awesome, okay? So #1 priority would be get her on the product. #2 would be, does she have company information that she has heard with a seed planted that perhaps this could be for her? Not just has she ever had company information, but did you give her company information with the thought, hey, I don't know that this would ever be for you, but I think you should listen to this with an open heart. Is that how you gave her the Choices CD, or did you just give it to her and say, let me know what you think? Okay? And number 3, I think, would be one of these things. Either she comes to a very large guest event and sees a bigger picture, or she's a hostess for you, or you walk her through an interview from beginning to end and you ask her for a decision. So those could be your number 3, okay? So number 1, she uses the product. Number 2, has she listened to a company information, either your marketing video or a powerful marketing video that she'd relate to, or the Choices CD and filled out the link, okay? Because you want to, and you have to plant the seed that this might be for her, okay? Not just, hey, watch this and I'll put you in a drawing, okay? Also plant the seed, okay? Because you need to help bridge the gap. And those things need to be in short proximity to each other. Whether your goal is June 30th or your goal is February 28th, why would you allow someone 30 days to listen to a Choices CD if she could listen to it tomorrow? Okay, so everything, your verbiage now has to be with a sense of urgency for everything, okay? So I just, for example, tonight worked with my red jackets that were new this past month on sending out a new marketing link that we created. Now, you don't want my marketing link because it's my marketing link. So the sheep will know the shepherd's voice. So either create your own marketing link or get the Choices CD or the Choices link, because half of the Tupa National area or more were recruited because we listened to the Choices link, okay? Me, I was recruited by listening to a Choices link, so that obviously works. So use what we have in Choices. So the sheep either know your voice or they're going to know Linda Tupin's voice. But today, I worked with my red jackets. I created a new marketing video. It was 12 minutes long. We put it in a Google document, and that way, as soon as their people watch it, they fill out the questions. And I worked with them on the script that they're going to use. And then their script, when people watch that, is, hey, is there any reason you could not watch this today or tomorrow for me? Right? Those are their choices, today or tomorrow. And yes, we are going to put every single person in a drawing for $100 worth of free Mary Kay when they watch. However, we don't say, hey, you can watch it anytime this month. I mean, just like when you get around to it. That's not what we say. Okay? We say today or tomorrow, can you watch this? Okay? And you want to shorten up the process. You want to say, hey, tomorrow, can I bring this set? And you try it. Tonight, could you wash your face? Everything is today, tonight, tomorrow. That's it. Tomorrow is about the last day I'm going to give everyone as a last minute option. Okay? Next, we gave you an interview guide. Now, I was going to take the time to give you tips on practice interviewing or give you tips on doing an interview and getting a guest. However, I was a guest speaker for Stephanie Lennard's retreat, and one of her people asked if she could videotape me doing an interview. So I already have a 25-minute practice interview that I did with one of her consultants, and so we included a link for that. So if you want to watch me do a 25-minute practice interview, I do tell you things I look for, why I say what I say, all that good stuff. So there is that, and it's already included, so we don't need to cover that. But that is an interview guide. It's Heather Bollinger's interview guide. I really like the interview guide. It really does work. That's what all of my consultants used last month. And the basis is that you just have to go all the way through. You can't wimp out at the end and not ask her on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being I would rather live in a cardboard box than do what you guys do, and 10 being sign me up. Where would you see yourself falling? And then she gives you a number. And then you have to ask, you know, what would be a question that I would need to answer for you, or what is something that would need to change in your life in order for you to go from a 7 to a 10. And then she's going to give you more objections. And I cover all of that when I did Stephanie's Gals Practice interview. So all of that is in there for you. But that's your own interview guide. And so you have all the tools with that interview guide. So the next step in provision is to set up your interviews. Okay? So, people can't say yes if you do not ask them. So, yes, you do have to set up interviews. And yes, we had so many people, adding so many people those last few days, that all of my consultants were doing their own interviews and walking through that. And yes, they had never done their own interviews. but they were totally capable. All of them brought in a team member on the last day by themselves that placed an order. They helped them buy a starter kit. They helped them decide which starter kit, a re-sign kit, or a brand new kit if they were a former consultant. They helped them get a $225 or a $600 or more order in. So they were able to walk everyone through all of those things, okay? So thinking about those categories of selling product, adding team members, helping Reds build Reds, you have to ask yourself questions in each of those categories, okay? So am I setting up interviews? Set up the interviews. Set up your classes and your facials, because people can't buy product if they don't try it, or they don't see it, or they don't touch it, or they don't use it, okay? So next, you're going to print off a weekly plan sheet, because you have to know when you would put this stuff, okay? So you have to work the numbers, but you have to know where you would put the numbers. And so I'm getting ready to walk you through some numbers of what it's going to take. You have to know what your numbers are for where you want to finish by when, okay? And like we talked about in the first call that I did the other day with the Tupa National Area, it's your plan. The plan is not different if you want to do it by June 30th. You just take longer to do the plan, okay? The plan is not a totally different plan for you if you want to finish in 1 month versus 5 months or 6 months. It's just you need to know what your deadline is, because that is going to determine how fast you have to work these numbers, okay? So you have to know what your numbers are in each of the 3 categories. We already talked about that. So a $3,600 wholesale. Here's a question you want to ask yourself. This is the question I asked myself because I wanted to finish it in a month. Honestly, that was the hardest piece for me. I am not a person that moves $4,000 worth of product normally in the month of January, okay? And so you need to ask yourself, 1, how much product do you actually have to sell to be able to finish your goal by the deadline you gave yourself? So let's just use me for an example. I needed to sell all of that in the month of January. And so do you already have a full store of inventory, or do you have no inventory, or do you have a partial inventory? Do you need to make a profit? Do you not need to make a profit? Meaning, if you have no inventory on hand, if you sold $3,600, you could take $3,600 of other people's money and buy your wholesale order, and then you have a shelf that's totally paid for. If you take $3,600 in other people's money, then you have an $1,800 wholesale shelf when it's all said and done, and you've delivered everyone's product. So if you, on the flip side, have a full store or more of inventory, then you're going to need to show some profit, unless your inventory is down from where it normally is and you're going to bulk up your inventory. So my personal goal for myself was for it to not cost my family anything for me to place a $3,600 wholesale order. So I did not care if I made a profit per se. I had downsized my inventory quite a bit in the last few months with the sales from December and November for Christmas. And I always do a trade with a hotel that takes like $1,200 off my shelf. And so I was okay bulking my inventory up. I pretty much last week, the week before I'd done this, owed 3 people product. I hate owing people product. So I could tell by my frustration level of making deliveries that I needed to bump up a little. So I was okay if I just sold enough to take all of it and place an order. But you need to know that for you, if your family needs every single dime of your 40 or 50% profit, then you need to know that your goal is to sell $6,000 in the time frame you've given yourself. Okay? So whatever your goal is to sell. So my goal was to sell $4,000. So whatever your goal is to sell, you want to divide that by the amount of time you've given yourself. So are you dividing your $3,600 wholesale by 6? Did you do a $600 in January and now you just have to do $600 in February, March, April, May, and June? Or are you dividing it by 2 and you need to have 2 $1,800 months? What are you dividing that by? And so you'd need to base that on when you gave yourself to complete it. Okay? So if, for example, my goal had to be done in 1 month, so I needed to figure out how can I move $4,000 worth of product in 1 month. Okay? So after that, you are going to basically go to the next category. And so the next category is qualified new team members. So you just need to know where you're at. Do you have any team members? And the question you're going to ask yourself is, you know, where would I get these team members? And so, and how am I going to go about that? And so 30 people need, at least, in my opinion, need to be given the information. That means, and we already prioritize it, right? I need to make sure that I have kind of 20 to 30 good prospects. Now, if you don't have 20 or 30 good prospects, that's okay. Just know that you're going to accumulate prospects throughout the month as you do other things, okay? So 30 people with product on their face, 30 people who are your customers, 30 people who have been given a link to choices with the seed planted that this might be for them, okay? And I think you're going to need to interview, like sit down for a decision, 20 people at least, in order to get it. Now, you might not have to. You know what? None of my people that got 3 people last month sat down and did 20 interviews. Some of them did 3 interviews, because when you are passionate about a goal, sometimes it's a 1-for-1 ratio, okay? So I would say, though, you need to account for giving yourself time to do 20 interviews with people who are on the product, have the seed planted, and have taken a look at company information and have booked an interview, okay? And you can set those up any way you want. You can say that you're earning your pearls and you need to do so many practice interviews, and this would be great practice. And your director, I'm sure, would give you a set of pearls if you want to do 20 practice interviews, okay? Because normally we give them to you when you do 10, okay? So however you want to set that up, but I think that 1 out of every 3 people that were on the product, that had a seed planted and took a look at company information, and that you sat down with and you worked an interview guide from beginning to end, I think that you could sign 1 out of every 3 at least. So there's that. Lastly, 3 new reds, okay? Do you have any? Do you have any recruits with recruits? And then you need to ask yourself, how can I help? When I have a recruit, how can I help her get recruits? Well, you just go back to what you did to help yourself get recruits, and you just help her do that, okay? But some of you guys, you have to right this second, focus on the first 2 categories as fast as you can, because you don't have any team members to help get new team members. So you have to get your product on people's faces and offer people the opportunity for them to say yes, and then that becomes your first person that you can help get new people, and you're just helping her do what you did. Does that make sense? Okay? So, provide. We're still on provide. Provide yourself with the right questions. Okay, the quality of our life is directly related to the quality of the questions we ask ourselves. I say that over and over and over again. Okay? And so Joe Rangel taught me that. So the quality of our lives is directly related to the quality of the questions I ask myself. And so you have to ask yourself good questions. It's not your director's job to ask you every single question so you turn over every rock. You have the information. But in each category, you're asking yourself questions. Okay? If you know now that you need to sell $4,000, then it becomes, how do I sell $4,000? What's one thing I could do today to move me in the direction of selling $4,000? Okay, how do I recruit 6 people? I don't think you need to ask yourself right this second, how do I recruit 6 qualified people? As you get recruits, there will be things that you do to get them qualified. So don't look at the qualified part yet, because you can do it 24, 24, 24. There's so many things that we could do. But provide yourself with the numbers that match your deadline. That's super important. Provide yourself with the numbers that are going to match your deadline, okay? The plan doesn't change, but your activity needs to match your timeline. Because if not, it is like when you sit with a brand new person. I always say, I think my job is to help you get out of Mary Kay what you came into Mary Kay to get out of it. But I always ask every new consultant 3 questions. And that is, how much time do you have to spend on Mary Kay? What do you want to accomplish with Mary Kay are the first 2 questions. And why do I ask them those 2 questions? Because sometimes those don't match up. Sometimes they say, well, what I really want to accomplish with Mary Kay is I want to do what you do. I want to make 6 figures. And then I say, how much time do you have to devote to that? And they say, an hour a week. Okay, that does not match up. Okay, and so you need to make sure that those match up. And that way you don't get frustrated with the process, because as long as your numbers align with what the amount of sales, the amount of selling appointments, the amount of interviews align with the amount needed to accomplish your goal in the time frame you gave yourself, you're not going to get frustrated in the process because I'm trying to finish this goal by February 28th, but I only have 2 classes on my books for the whole month, and I have no team members and I have no interviews, okay? You have to make sure that you're building towards numbers that will allow you to hit your goal in the time frame you gave yourself to hit it, okay? So for example, I think that you're going to have to focus on doing 100 faces, because if you do the math, the average face buys $70 for the product. So if you are going to keep your profit, and the more faces you do, usually the less quality or the less amount of sales comes. If I did 10 faces this month and I'm very choosy on who the faces are, I can get more than $70 with sales out of 10 faces. But if I increase that and I say I've got to do 100 faces this month, then I don't get the exact same result. So that quality of the appointment or that quantity of the money coming in is going to go down as you increase your numbers exponentially, okay? But let's just base it on 100 faces. So if you had 100 faces at $70 a face, that's $7,000 in sales, okay? I'm trying to at least get those of you that need to keep every dime of your profit to $6,000, because at your 40-60 split, that gives you a 3,600 wholesale order. So let's say that 6,000 is what you have to do. Okay, so your choice is 100 faces in February, or 50 faces in February and 50 faces in March, or 20 faces. Let's say you did nothing in January. It's 20 faces in February, March, April, May, June. Okay, so you get to decide. The average skincare class in the company is $350 in sales at a class. So if you do 20 of those, that's $7,000. You get to decide whether you want to do 20 in February, or you want to take February through June and you want to do 20 over the course of the next 5 months. Okay, the plan does not change. The amount of time that you're willing to spend on the plan changes. Okay, so if you have no inventory and you don't need to keep a profit, and you want a completely paid for store, then you only need to do 10 classes where you sell $350 and reinvest all of it. Okay. Or you need 12 silent hostesses that have $300 in sales that they bring you, because 12 hostesses that give you $300 in sales is a $3,600 wholesale order. So it's up to you, and you decide. Okay, the last sheet of paper, are you ready? The last sheet of paper is revision. So you're going to put revision all the way across. So we've got decision, provision, revision. Okay, now what does revision mean? Revision means be ready to pivot. Okay, my favorite episode of Friends is the one where they are trying to get the couch down the stairs and they're screaming, pivot, pivot, okay? And they're trying to turn it, and pivoting is really, really important. And pivoting is what I was most proud of. These team members that got into the red jacket, they pivoted a lot in the last 24 hours. So be ready to pivot, because you've made a decision and you've provided a plan. So you have to continue on that plan until you finish. Okay? So it's not like, man, things are starting to fall apart, so let me just not do it. Let me just change my deadline, or let me just change everything that I'm doing right now. No. If you are solid in the plan and you are solid in when you wanted to accomplish it, then continue to pivot, revise. But do not just throw in the towel and wave your white flag because things are falling apart. Things are going to fall apart. You are going to get discouraged, but discouragement is not a tool of Jesus Christ. Have you ever heard the story of Satan's yard sale? Okay, I'll make it quick. Satan has all these tools at a yard sale, and he's got them all on the table, and they all have a different price tag on them, and this man picks up this tool, and it's a tool of jealousy, and it's got a price tag on it, and he picks up this tool, and it's a tool of lust, and it's got a price tag on it. And he gets next to Satan, and there's this really rusty tool, and it's little, and it's old, and it looks like it's seen better days, and it's definitely the most used thing at this yard sale. And it has this super expensive price tag on it. And the man takes it to Satan, and he says, this, tell me what this is about. It doesn't have a name on it, but it is so expensive, and it looks really worn out. And Satan says, oh, that's the tool of discouragement. With that, I can accomplish anything. Okay, so you think about everything in our lives, right? and everything that starts to fall apart. Discouragement is the tool that Satan uses. He uses it in our marriage. He uses it on our hearts, okay? But when we are discouraged, we make crappy choices. But discouragement is not a tool that Jesus uses. So when you get discouraged, you just have to know where the discouragement comes from. And it's easier then for you to separate yourself from it and keep working your numbers and revise the plan. But revision is your answer, not throw in the towel. Not, I knew I couldn't win this trip. I'll just buy a vacation. No, you will not just buy a vacation. Okay, you are going to revise and you're going to keep working and you're going to keep going. And here are some things that you are going to do that I watched my people do like over and over and over again on the last day. So you're going to continue on the path. You're going to be flexible with the plan, but know that everything will not go as planned. And if you know that now, it is easier when it all starts to fall apart, okay? Life happens. Life happens to your customers. Life happens to a hostess. Life happens to your team members, okay? I had a class plan on Friday night. Friday night, we had all this rain. I had 2 people coming to the class, including the hostess, who had water in her basement. So there's not much I can do about that, okay? So life will happen to people, and instead of focusing on what is not happening, instead you have to decide to focus on what is happening, because that is a choice, to focus on what is going right and what can still happen with the time you have left till the deadline you've given yourself. So you might want to even take a piece of paper and divide it down the middle and write control on the left-hand side and no control on the right-hand side. These are the things I have control of. These are the things I don't have control of. And you focus on the things you have control of, because when push comes to shove, there is a lot more on this list of things you have control of than there is on the right-hand side of things you have no control of. So get yourself a sheet of paper and continue to ask yourself the question, what is the one thing that I can do to move myself one step closer to the goal? What is one thing I can do to move myself one step closer to the goal? So all of those stories that I told you about, all of those people, they all continue to ask themselves over and over and over again, okay, what is one thing I can do? What is one thing I can do? What is one person I can ask? Who else could I talk to? Could I have control of whether I text her and don't hear anything back. Do I pick up the phone? Do I call her? Or do I just take it as, she's not interested? No, unless I called her, unless I did everything I have control of to get me one step closer to the best answer, then I haven't done everything within my control, okay? Make it okay for people to tell you no, because that's best for them, even if it's not best for you. Unexpected things that arise will build confidence and resiliency. So I have no doubt that the people that became Red Jackets in my unit, that those women have more resiliency. And this month, when things start to fall apart, I believe that they will be better because of it. They know what happens when you just keep asking yourself, what's one thing I could do to get me one step closer to the goal? Because they all got one step closer to the goal, and they all finished because they refused to change their deadline, okay? They'd already decided that they were going to be Red Jackets at the end of the month. They already decided that them being Red Jackets was what it was going to take for me to finish my goal of finishing in 31 days. And we were one of 6 teams to finish that in 31 days. And if they had waved a white flag or given up or decided, oh my gosh, it's out of my control at 9 o'clock p.m., some of them didn't finish those Red Jackets until 11 o'clock at night. So if they'd given up, we would not have finished. Some of them got out of bed to finish those Red Jackets because one more thing came in, because they pushed and pushed and pushed until they couldn't push anymore. And so all of them came together to do that and continue to revise. So as women, we do it all the time. Decision, provision, revision, okay? So decision, provision, revision. As a woman, you have done it. If you have ever birthed a baby, you have decided, provided, revised, okay? And okay, for example, if you have decided to have a baby, you made a decision to have a baby, or you made a decision to not prevent having a baby, okay? But in any case, you made a decision to have a baby. So you decided to have a baby, and after that, after you found out you were pregnant, you had a provision, okay? And the provision was a birth plan, or preparing the nursery, or deciding breast or bottle, or deciding to do all your research, or how you were going to take care of things, or were you going to be an epidural or a no epidural, or were you going to have an at-home birth or a water birth, or were you going to have birth in the hospital, okay? So you had all these things that you had a plan for leading up to it. So everything that you could plan for, you did plan for, okay? And then what happens? Then the day comes, and it becomes a big day of revision, okay? You might have had a plan that you were going to not have an epidural, but then after 36 hours of hardcore labor and a baby that weighed 12 pounds, you might have revised your plan a little, okay? Or you might have decided that you were going to totally breastfeed, and you were going to do it for a year, but then you had clogged milk ducts, and you could not stand it anymore, and you stuck a bottle in the baby's mouth, okay? There are so many revisions that happen. But you are the person that gets to continue to revise, and at the end, right, the result is that you do the best you can, and that it might not have gone as planned, but you just kept revising and kept improvising to get the best results for what was being thrown your way, okay? I will never forget being in a birthing class. And we have great friends that live locally to us, and they were pregnant at the same time. We went to this birthing class at the hospital. You know, the one where they show you the 1972 video of the woman giving birth, and you're like, okay, we need a new video, okay? So anyway, but I can remember the lady sitting next to me that, we have a lot in common, and we're filling out this little birthing plan of, at what point in the pain process, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain level? And what is your plan for, do you want to be offered the epidural when your pain is at a 1 or when your pain is at a 10? So we're filling this chart out, and we pretty much fill it all out prior to watching the 1972 video of the woman giving birth. Okay, and it's an uncomfortable video to watch when you realize you're going to have to go through this process. Because, most of us in the room have never seen anyone give birth except maybe a farm animal. Okay, so, and they make it look easy. Okay, so I'm sitting there next to my friend, and I've filled out the chart of I want to wait till my pain level's at a 10, and I want to do this and this and this. And I'm breathing deep through this video okay, I'm not changing any of my numbers, right? And my friend next to me, the video is playing, and she bursts into tears, and she starts hyperventilating to her husband, right? And the video's over, the instructor comes over, and she's like, hey, are you okay? And my friend says, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to squeeze the baby out. And so, the instructor assures her, hey, the baby's got to come out, okay? You can fill this piece of paper out any way you want. I mean, a 1, as far as she was concerned, was too big of a pain threshold to go through. She wanted the epidural at a 0, okay? And so the lady's like, well, we can't give it to you at 0, And so, but the lady assured her, hey, at the end of this process, you're going to have a baby, and it's all going to be okay. And I actually laugh every time I see my friend, because she had 2 children after that, and I really thought that her child was going to be an only child for the rest of his life. So, ultimately, you're going to go through on the other side, and no matter how much you decide and provide and revise, it is going to be a process that grows you, okay? You will be a better person on the other side. The cruise is not about the cruise. It's about who you and your team members become in the process of earning the cruise. You are going to become a better version of yourself, okay? So I can remember sitting at Leadership Conference, and Julia Burnett at Leadership Conference one year spoke of the Julia Burnett that she used to be. And this achievement is about you becoming a better version of yourself in the process. I feel like I am a better version of myself as a leader than I was 35 days ago, okay? I am a better version of myself as a leader as of January 31st than I was on January 30th, okay? So the entire process has stretched us and grown us, and I would love us to be in a place where we don't even recognize the old us in the process of earning a cruise. but it's not about the cruise. It is about who we become in the process. And I think that for us to not even recognize ourselves come March 1st, that's the goal. For you to be an unrecognizable version of yourself on March 1st because of who you have grown to be between February 1st and March 1st. And that in itself is better than any trip that Mary Kay could ever buy us, right? So you guys, I hope this helped to answer your questions from A to Z. Every resource is out there, including the 24-24-24 challenge that will help get your consultants qualified. And by all means, it is going to be who we become in the process after we decide and after we provide and after we revise our plan and pivot. But we will be the very best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. Continue on with passion and enthusiasm and set your sights on the cruise. But it is going to be about who you become in the process that matters most. You guys have a great night.